In photography, everybody is chasing a look, from professional photographers to people trying to make it as influencers to the average Instagram user who's just trying to make a story post look good. But what separates photography as an art from just taking a photo is intentionality, especially when it comes to in-camera effects. Even as post-processing technology advances, with Adobe Lightroom now able to add lens blur and remove reflections in post, creators still flock to equipment that'll get the job done in camera. So when I heard about a lens that could create real-time light leaks, I was definitely intrigued. I wasn't sure I could trust PolarPro, as so far they'd only made filters. And I also wasn't sure I could trust the hype around disposable camera-esque mirrorless lenses. It seemed too good to be true. Beautiful aesthetic photos that could be achieved with a lens that ranges from $50 to $125. I was pretty doubtful, especially when I looked into PolarPro more and found this aluminum box that they sell for $50 because it has a YouTuber's name on it. But I was too intrigued by the light leak mechanism not to try it. And besides, I was looking for a lightweight, easy to use lens that I could use in my travel or everyday purposes. So when Christmas rolled around, I got this under my tree. This is the PolarPro 28mm light leak lens for Sony E-mount.
28mm all of them are f11.
It's a metal build with a plastic ring to control the glass opening that creates the light leaks across the frame.
It's a little heavier than I was expecting, but not that heavy, especially considering the size, like the density. Even if the dense lens, there's not that much there.
Now, I'll note that this lens is designed for full frame sensors, but I've attempted tests on both my camera, the A6700, and some FX3s when I had the chance to borrow some, and I received similar results. So while the experience might be a little different on a full frame sensor, I still experienced a lot of the same problems that I did on a crop sensor, so I'm disregarding that for this review, but feel free to look into other sources if you're using a full frame camera. Additionally, I think the target audience for this lens is going to be primarily APS-C shooters, people who aren't spending a lot of time editing their photos, people who are hobbyists or just have a camera for family vacations. So I think reviewing this for an APS-C body still makes sense.
You get a sticker. That's nice.
Now, every time I show people this lens, including seasoned photographers, they look at the light control ring and they're wondering, what does it actually do? And that's a big question for me too. The light is coming across the frame and creating the visual effects, but it's hard to control the shape of the light, it's hard to control the color of the light. One thing you might notice right away is that the sun needs to be out in order to make bringing this lens worth it. Because without that light leak effect, it really is a very poor lens. So for those of you who live in the Pacific Northwest like me, you might want to think twice about this lens just right off the bat. But I think on a nice sunny day, like that you can mess around with it, you can work with it a little bit. My overall goal was to get a filmic look straight in camera and accentuate that composition with light leaks. And I got that film look. When I sent photos off to my girlfriend, she assumed that I had shot them with my Pentax K1000. But then I experienced some difficulty with the focal range. It's not great for capturing landscapes, which I think would be really important in terms of travel photography. The advertised focal length was 1 meter to infinity, but the landscape shots that I took were far softer than expected. And I still find it tricky to capture portraits, which might be because of the APS-C body cropping this down to about a 42mm lens. But even still, I found the fixed focal range to be a major hang-up in terms of the photos I was capturing. Anytime that I gave a photographer of any skill level this lens, and they started to mess around with it, their biggest complaint was the lack of control for the light leaks themselves. Things like the shape, the colors, it was very hard to control, just overexposing versus not having any light leaks at all. After these shoots, I'm able to bring the image into Darktable and touch up the effects, but I feel like this really misses the point of the lens itself. Why bother making a lens that's so focused on the intentional craft just to advertise how great the experience of editing the images are? If I wanted to spend time editing the image, that probably means that I'm working on a professional shoot with professional lenses. This is supposed to be a lens that does it all in camera. If I was going to bother editing the image, why would I buy the lens in the first place? I think one major improvement that PolarPro could make in future lineups is giving some sort of focus control. It might be a little bit difficult with the unconventional design since so much of the outside is about the light leak window, but maybe something like a front focus control, like what 7 Artisans has in this lens, would provide some control. Not enough for a precise focus pull, but enough to differentiate between landscape shots, portrait shots, or anything in between. Because of course, we've all been on vacations, we want to capture photos of our friends, but also the beautiful places that we're visiting. I think another revision that PolarPro could make is adding refraction to the glass opening here, allowing the light to come in, but also create colors and scatter more across the image. We'd still have the control ring to focus how much and where we want the light leaks to be, but this would give us a lot more creativity versus just having more light spilling across the frame. I feel like PolarPro was onto something with this design, but ultimately they missed the mark with a narrow vision about what this lens should be. Hopefully this is something that they evolve over time, but right now I'm kind of feeling like I was just marketed to. Now that I have it though, I find myself using it in a little more of an everyday function, or when I know that I'm going to be going out right around golden hour, and I'm getting some good results. I don't think that I'll sell it, but it definitely wasn't what I thought it would be, what I thought it was hyped up to be, and what I think it could be with revisions over time. I would only recommend purchasing it if you have the funds to spend $125 on a lens that you don't think you'll love, but maybe you'll like. And maybe you'll love it, who knows? But also maybe ask around, see if other people were hooked by this idea and bought one. Maybe there's someone who's reselling it on eBay. They've got a little buyer's remorse like I might have. And if you're on the fence or you don't have the money, the lens flares are always greener on the other side.